Alright guys, I am back yet again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 2 of my Stoicheia Lianorn deck. So version 2 is everything through the additional special set, so up to a fraction of the booster set 11. And this deck has received a very nice upgrade, getting a boost to its power, its card advantage, and its resource management. So overall a very nice upgrade. So as always we'll be going through the deck and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with the ride deck, it is the same as before. So we have our grade 0 starter. Announcing Wind of Spring, Corfi. So when she's rode upon, if you want a second, draw a card. Same old starter skill. Next for the grade 1. We have Budding of Pleasant Sounds, Gracia. So her auto ability says when this unit is rode upon by Brilliant Tune Rectina, you may call this card to Rearguard Circle. And then her continuous ability, when she's on Rearguard Circle, says during the battle this unit boosted a Vanguard, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So when you ride over her, you can just call her to your back row center, and she'll be a 13k booster on your board. So just helping fill up that back row so you can get full advantage of Lianorn's skill. So next for the grade 2, we of course have Brilliant Tune Rectina. So her auto ability says when this unit is rode upon by a unit with Lianorn in its card name, you can Soul Blast 1 to choose a grade 1 or less card from your drop and call it to Rearguard Circle. So just lets you get another grade 1 or less onto your board, so that should be 2 out of the 3 to fill up your back row, assuming Gracia didn't get retired. So getting you 2/3 of the way to your goal of filling up your back row so you can fully boost Lianorn. Now this does cost another Soul Blast, in addition to of course Gracia calling herself out of your soul. So by the time you use all this, you will only have 1 card left in your soul. But we do have some more cards in this deck now to help mitigate that. And then she also has her continuous ability when she's on Rearguard Circle that says if your back row has 3 or more Rearguards, this unit gets boost. So if you do revive her from the drop, you can get her as a 10k booster on your board in your back row if you need help filling that up. Although most of the time we have much better targets to revive than her, so she doesn't really end up on Rearguard too often. So then lastly for the grade 3, we have Grand March of Full Bloom, Lianorn. So she has her activate ability that says once per turn, you can counterblast 1 to draw a card and choose a card from your hand and call it to Rearguard Circle or discard it. So this is just a counterblast 1 for a draw 1 and call 1. So just make sure you have something in your hand that you want to call, and of course an open Rearguard Circle to call it to, for you to still get that card advantage. Which is nice because we do have a card that requires it to be superior called in order for you to get its skill active. So this ability is one method to do that. And then she also has her auto ability, which is her main skill, that says when this unit attacks, you can Soul Blast 1 and discard a card from hand, and boost this unit with all of your back row stand units with boost. And if you boosted this unit with 3 or more units, this unit gets drive plus 1 until end of that battle, and at the end of that battle, you choose 2 of your back row Rearguards and stand them. So this lets you boost Lianorn with your entire back row, so that means your Vanguard attack should be hitting some absolutely massive numbers. Plus you will get triple drive on that attack as well, which that will be a ±0 since you have to discard to get it, but you get the extra trigger chance. And at the end of that battle, you get to restand 2 of the back row units that you rested to boost her. So you can restand your left and right column Rearguards, and that means your Rearguard attacks will still be able to be boosted that turn as well. So a very cool skill, letting you make your center column hit some insane numbers while not decreasing the offensive power of your Rearguard columns either. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, we do have our 3 additional copies of Lianorn, double frame rare, of course, for our Persona ride purposes. Next, we have 4 copies of Resonance Dragon. So he has a continuous ability that says if your unit is boosted a total of 3 or more times this turn, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So your entire back row will be boosting Lianorn, which will be your first attack that turn. So after your Vanguard attacks, he should be at a 18k base. And then he also has his auto ability that says at the end of the battle, this unit attacked the Vanguard. If you have a Vanguard with Lianorn in its card name, and your unit's boosted a total of 5 or more times this turn, you can counterblast one and put this unit into your soul to choose one of your rear guards and stand it. So this is a very important skill for this deck, giving you a 4th attack every turn. Now it is a -1 since you had to put him into your soul, but this deck gets very Soul Blast heavy, so turning him into that resource is actually usually a good thing most of the time. And since the order in which things go off in this deck, you can attack with your Vanguard first and boost her 3 times, then attack with your other rear guard that's not Resonance Dragon and boost it, and then attack with Resonance Dragon and boost him, so that'll be your 5 boosts in order to trigger this ability, and then you can restand your other rear guard. So since you did that in that order, when you attack with your Vanguard first and she has her triple drive, any triggers you get from that triple drive you can stack onto the rear guard that you're going to restand, and you can actually double your mileage out of all those triggers, since both of its attacks will have that power up. So a very important offensive piece for this deck. You do have to keep either reviving it from your drop somehow, or calling another copy from your hand every turn in order to keep reusing it. But every opportunity you get to use it, you should, since it definitely increases your offense by a very large amount. So next we have 3 copies of Yearnful Flower Maiden Florence. So she has a continuous ability when she's on Rearguard or Guardian Circle that says if your opponent's drive check or damage check revealed a trigger unit this turn, this unit gets power plus 10,000, shield plus 10,000. So during your opponent's turn, if they happen to drive check into a trigger, she can become a 10k shield in your hand to help make up for, the power gain that your opponent got from that trigger. Or during your turn, if your opponent damage checks a trigger from one of your attacks, then again she gets a 10k power boost to help mitigate the defense that your opponent gained from that trigger. So she is a nice offensive and defensive option for when your opponent is checking into some triggers. And then she also has her auto ability, when she's on Rearguard Circle, that says once per turn, when this unit attacks, you can discard the top 2 cards of your deck and perform all of the following. So you can soul charge one, and this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. And if all of the cards discarded for this cost are not normal units, it gets power plus 15,000 instead of plus 5,000. And then also you can remove an over trigger from your drop to choose a unit card from your drop and put it into hand. So this second ability is obviously a once per game skill, if that. But if you happen to draw into your over trigger and you guard with it or whatever and it ends up in the drop, or you mill it off of the cost for this ability or whatever, if it gets into your drop one way or another, you can remove it in order to grab any unit card you want and put it into your hand out of your drop zone. So this can grab a copy of Resonance Dragon to recycle him. It can grab a Perfect Guard. It can grab a trigger just to give you some more shield cards in your hand. It can grab any units that you want to call to Rearguard next turn. It can grab a Persona Ride copy. It's an extremely versatile skill. It is pretty much a free +1 since you're just removing a card from your drop for the cost. So free card advantage and having you toolbox anything from your drop zone is a very nice skill. Of course, it's not super consistent about going off since you have to get an over trigger into your drop zone to use it, which of course if you check into your over trigger it removes itself, so you would have to see it by either drawing into it or milling it in order to get this ability. But even without that part of the skill, just the first part can be very helpful. This is a soul charging ability, so again this deck is very Soul Blast heavy, so getting that extra resource is always a good thing. Plus it gives her at least an extra 5k, potentially 15k, if the 2 cards that you milled off the top of your deck are not normal units. So if you mill 2 triggers and or order cards, she'll get 15k until end of turn instead. So this card is usually the best target to restand off of Resonance Dragon's ability, since between her own skill powering her up Her first skill potentially mitigating any damage triggers that your opponent checks, any triggers that you stacked on her from Lianorn's triple drive, and the boost of whatever unit is behind her. You can actually get Florence hitting some absolutely insane numbers. And then if you restand her with Resonance Dragon skill, she can become very dangerous. Especially if you checked into a critical trigger and gave it to her. That can be potentially 2 very large attacks that are 2 crit each. So a very, very nice offensive card for this deck. Which, as for this auto ability, it is very good, but I wouldn't go too crazy about using it. Since between your draw phase, Lianorn's triple drive, and this ability discarding 2 from your deck and soul charging, that's 7 cards out of your deck in 1 turn at least. So yeah, don't go too nuts with it, or you can end up decking yourself out. But when used at the appropriate time, it can be a very, very helpful ability in this deck. So next up, I still am running 1 copy of each of the 3 normal orders that go along with Lianorn's theme. Just like before, all 3 of these are optional, so if you want to take any of these out and replace them with anything else, you can feel free to do so. But I am running 1 copy of the normal order, Fun Marching. So you can play it with a Soul Blast 1, and it lets all of your grade 1 or less rearguards get power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So just a nice power-up ability, powering up usually at least your entire back row. Potentially sometimes your front row units too, if you have some grade 1s in the front, which can happen sometimes. So just a cool power-up card for this deck. It is another Soul Blast cost, so again, be careful about when you use it. But yeah, I'm just keeping it in as a 1 of. Next, we have 1 copy of Happy Dreaming Festa. So you can play this if you have a Vanguard with Lianorn in its card name, and by counterblasting 1. So it lets you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 grade 1 or less unit cards, call them to rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. So this is potentially a counterblast 1 for a +1 if you find 2 grade 1s in the top 7 that you want to call. So this can help rebuild your board against control decks if they like wipe your entire back row or something. So it can be a good option for those situations. It can also help you find important combo pieces if you need to search out Prosper or whoever and get them onto your board. So again, an optional card, but it can be useful in certain situations. And then our last grade 3 is 1 copy of Sympathize Decibel. So you can play it with a counterblast 1, and it lets you draw a card, choose a card from your hand, call it to rearguard circle, or discard it. And if you called a card until end of turn, that called unit cannot attack and gets power plus 10,000. So this is very similar to Lianorn's first ability, letting you draw 1 and call 1. You do have to call a booster off of this card since it can't attack, but you can call something to your back row and power it up by 10k. So that'll power up at least 2 of your attacks that turn, since that unit will be boosting both Lianorn and 1 of your rearguards. Now, it is a counterblast 1 for a ±0, but you do get that pretty nice power gain out of it. So again, I think a pretty cool option for the deck. So that is all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s, we only have 1 grade 2 in the main deck, which is 3 copies of Luster Impact Dragon. So he has his continuous ability that says during your turn, if your back row has 2 or more grade 1 or less rearguards, this unit gets boost and power plus 5,000. And then he also has his auto ability that says once per turn, when this unit stands by the ability of your Vanguard with Granfia or Lianorn in its card name, if your Vanguard's power is 33,000 or greater, you can Soul Blast 1 to draw a card, and this unit gets another power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So for this deck, you primarily want this card in your back row. So if you have 1 copy of him and 2 other grade 1s in your back row, he will gain boost from his continuous ability. So you can have him be a back row booster, and he'll be a 15k booster at that point, since he will be getting his power gain from his continuous skill as well. And then when you restand him off of Lianorn's ability, that will trigger his second skill, allowing you to draw 1 and gain another 5k. So he'll be a 20k booster for your rearguard attack that turn for whichever rearguard he is boosting. Now, if you end up with him in the front row instead, he is pretty much just a vanilla 15k at that point, since you won't be able to restand your front row with Lianorn's skill. You can restand him with Resonance Dragon skill, but that will not trigger his auto ability. So he'll just be a 15k attacker in your front row, which isn't terrible, but primarily you want him in the back to take full advantage of him. Specifically, getting him behind Resonance Dragon is a good column, since he'll be a 20k booster for Resonance Dragon, and that'll let him hit some magic numbers. So a pretty good card for both your offense and your card advantage, since it is another draw engine for the deck. Now it is also another Soul Blast cost, but Soul isn't as tight in this deck as it was before, thanks to some of our new cards like Florence. So overall, a very nice card. So that is the only grade 2 in the deck, so moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 4 copies of Forest Protecting Hunter Prosper. So he has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle by a card's ability, you may soul charge 1. So again, another very important soul charge in this deck. Now he has to be superior called in order for you to get this. So if you discard him early for your ride deck, you can superior call him with Rectina's ability when you ride into Lianorn. That's usually my primary play to go into this card. If you draw into him and have him in your hand, you can superior call him from your hand using Lianorn's first skill. And then you'll get the draw and the soul charge off of that. So that is a method as well. Beyond that, Happy Dreaming Festa, if you find him in the top 7 and superior call him off of that, that will also trigger that ability. And we are still running Diantha in this deck too. So you can potentially revive him from the drop with Diantha's skill and get that soul charge that way. Plus Sympathize Decibel as well, can also call it from your hand. So we have a multitude of ways of getting this card superior called in order to gain that extra soul. And then once he's out on your rearguard circle, he also has a second auto ability that says when this unit boosts, if you have a Vanguard with Lianorn in its card name, you choose a unit in the same column as this unit, and it gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this is a very nice ability as well, since this ability is not once per turn. That means when you use him to boost Lianorn's attack, you can power up the rearguard in front of him by 5k. And then when you re-stand him off of Lianorn's ability, and you have that rearguard in front of him attack, you can boost with him a second time, which will again give another 5k to that rearguard. So again, I like putting this one behind the rearguard that I'm going to re-stand with Resonance Dragon skill, and that rearguard will have gained an extra 10k from this ability going off twice at that point. So again, with Florence, that can make some very insane numbers for that rearguard attack. On the first activation of this skill, you actually could give the first 5k to Prosper himself, and then that will power up your Vanguard's attack by an extra 5k, plus your Rearguard's attack by an extra 5k when you boost with him for its attack. So if you can't restand your Rearguard because you don't have Resonance Dragon or something, that might be a better play, just to add that little extra power boost to your Vanguard attack, even though Lianorn should be hitting for some pretty high numbers anyway. But yeah, overall one of the most important new cards for this deck, helping mitigate both the soul issues with this deck and even further increasing the power gain. So next up, we have 3 copies of Performing Petal Diantha. So she has her auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can counterblast 1 to choose a grade 3 or less card from your drop and call it to rearguard circle. So just a nice revival ability, letting you grab anything from your drop and call it to rearguard. So you can revive Prosper to get his soul charge ability again. You can revive Resonance Dragon to reuse his skill, or just grab whatever you need to fill in your board. So very nice ability. And she also has her continuous skill when she's on rearguard that says during your turn, if you have 2 or more grade 1 or less rearguards in your back row, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So she can be a 13k body as well, usually in the back row, but if you need her to help fill in your front row, it'll be a 13k attacker. She can do that as well, as long as you got those 2 grade 1s in the back. So next we have 2 copies of Marching Debut Purite. So she just has her continuous ability that says during your turn, if you have 3 or more grade 1 or less rearguards, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So she herself is a grade 1, so she will count towards the 3 that you need in order to get this power gain. So that'll just make her a 13k body on your board. This card isn't needed by any means. I am mostly just running her because I love her artwork. And she's a nice, fill in any slot on your board kind of card. But if you want to replace this with anything else, you can feel free to do so. So next we have one copy of Recorder Raccoon. So he has an auto ability that says when this unit boosts, if you have a Vanguard with Lianorn in his card name, your opponent cannot intercept until end of that battle. So again, this is another optional card. It just gives a slight guard restrict to whatever unit it is boosting. So again, you should be able to use him twice per turn on your Vanguard attack and one of your rear guard attacks. So can be nice, restricting your opponent's guarding abilities, especially if they have some big interceptors, like if you're playing against Eva or Laronaral or somebody that, has a big intercepting unit. He can be useful in those situations. But again, this is another card I am just mostly running because I love his artwork. So if you want to replace this, you can replace it as well. So the only other great ones we have are our Sentinels. So we have 3 copies of Custodial Dragon, just your standard Perfect Guard, as well as the 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude Blitz Order that you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which is still 7 crit, 2 front, 2 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crit triggers, I have 3 copies of Melodia Pomera, so just a vanilla crit. Additionally, we have our 4 copies of Aspiring Maiden Alana. So crit with a skill, at the end of the battle it boosted, you can put it into your soul to choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 2,000 until end of turn. So this is a way to get more soul in the deck. It's a little awkward since, the way this deck works with the boosting, so actually don't end up using this skill very often. So if you would rather run a vanilla crit, you can do that. Next up for the fronts, we have 2 copies of Frenzied Heiress. So front with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, gets shield plus 5,000. So your 20k shield front trigger. Next for the draws, we have 2 copies of Serene Maiden Lena. So same skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, gets shield plus 5,000. So your 10k shield draw trigger. Then for the heals, we got 4 copies of Flowery Tone. So just a vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any of the effect heals, you can. And then our over trigger is Source Dragon Deity of Blessings, Bless Favor. So his additional effect lets you draw a card, choose one of your units. It gets critical plus 1 until end of turn. All of your front row units get power plus 10,000. And if your damage zone has the same number of cards as your opponent's or more, you choose a card from your damage zone and heal it. So a crit front draw and heal, all rolled into 1. Always a very, very powerful trigger. Now, if you do want to replace this with either one of the nationless triggers, you can go that route. It is pretty much just player preference. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. And let's see, we'll fight Sam this time. And we will be going second. Alright, so I'll drop Happy Dreaming Festa, I guess, to ride Gracia. And then Corfy will let us drop. And then I am just going to go ahead and attack. So he gets to add a copy of Kill Shroud to his hand, but he plays Dusting instead. And I'm gonna go ahead and let that one through. Alright, so we'll discard Prosper to ride. And then Gracie's skill will call her out to our back row center. And I'm going to go ahead and call Luster Impact Dragon over here. And I think that's all for now. So we will attack with the Vanguard first. And he gets a front trigger, so Luster actually won't be able to hit anything, so had to just end our turn. And he searches another copy of Dusting from his deck. And then Vogel skill will let him search Death Winds as well. And he plays Death Winds. Which powers up both his rear guards. And he put Death Winds into Soul, even though that won't do anything, because I'm at grade 2. So there's the AI having a moment. But I am actually going to go ahead and Perfect Guard this, just to keep him from getting that Vanguard restand. So we will discard... Yeah, we'll drop a Luster, I guess. He gets a crit trigger. And that is 2 crits, so I might have to use up 2 cards, but I think I do want to go ahead and block that. And I'll let that one through. And we get a crit trigger that is wasted. Alright, so as much as I hate to, I think I'm going to discard that Persona ride. To ride Lianorn. And Rectina's skill will let us Soul Blast. And we can revive one from our drop, so we're going to revive Prosper. And that'll trigger his ability to let us Soul Charge. So then I'm going to use Lianorn's Activate ability to Counter Blast and draw, and then we can Superior call one from our hand, so I'm going to call Florence. And then we will move Luster Impact back and call Resonance Dragon in front of him. And I believe we are good, so we will go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first. And we don't want to boost here, because instead we want to use her ability to let us Soul Blast one and discard one, and we'll discard Prosper. To boost with our entire back row, bring her to 49,000 with triple drive. And Prosper's ability will trigger, giving Florence an extra 5k. Oh, and we pull our over trigger. So I'm going to give that power to Florence. And we drew another copy of Florence. And then we can give a crit, and I am going to give that to Lianorn. And then our front row gains 10k, and we get to heal 1. And he gets a heal trigger, which he does get. But that powers up Florence by another 10k. Even though she's already 100 million plus. So then Lianorn's skill will let us restand Luster Impact and Prosper. Once triggers Luster's skill, it'll let us Soul Blast again. And draw. And he gains another 5k. So then we can go ahead and attack with Florence, boosted by Prosper. And Prosper's ability will trigger once again, giving Florence another 5k, which isn't really needed at this point, but we're doing it anyway. And we could use Florence's ability here, but I'm actually not going to right now. So then we can attack with Resonance Dragon, boosted by Luster, for 48,000. Well, that's that one through too. He gets a crit trigger, which again doesn't really help him much, because we can use Resonance Dragon skill to counterblast and put him to Soul. And that will let us stand Florence, and we can attack with her once again for 100,043,000. And again, I'm not going to use her ability. And he did have a perfect guard. So he managed to survive, but we got him to 5 damage to our 1. And he did have another copy of Death Winds as well. Plus he got his Persona Ride, so he will get 4 attacks this turn. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this one through. He gets a heal trigger, which he does get. Which powers up Florence. And we get a heal trigger, which we definitely do not get, but we get the power. So I'll give that to the Vanguard. Now Avant-Garde restands. And I think I'm gonna let this one through too, actually. Oh, and we get a draw trigger, nice. So, power to the Vanguard. And we just need 10 to block that, so we'll guard with that draw we just drew into. And I think I'll let that one through too. Alright, so unfortunately we do not get our Persona ride. But we can go ahead and use Lianorn's Activate ability to Counter Blast. And draw, and we will Superior Call one of these Resonance Dragons. And I believe we are all set up with that. So we will go ahead and attack with a Vanguard first. Again, not boosted. Because we're going to use her ability to Soul Blast and discard one. So we'll drop... And we'll drop that Prosper. To boost with our entire back row. And Prosper's ability gives Florence another 5k. And he perfect guards again. And we get a heal trigger, which we do get. So we heal one. And we'll give that power to Florence. And we get another heal trigger, which we don't get this time, but again, we'll give the power to Florence. And then Lianorn's ability lets us restand Luster and Prosper once again. And we can't use Luster skill because we don't have any soul at the moment. But we can attack with Florence next, boosted by Prosper. And Prosper's ability once again triggers to give Florence another 5k. And I will use Florence's ability this time as well to discard the top two from the deck. Then we Soul Charge one and she gains 5k because there was a normal unit in there. And he lets that one through. So then we can attack with Resonance Dragon, boosted by Luster. And he guards. But now Resonance Dragon skill will let us Counter Blast and move him to Soul. And we can restand Florence. And she can attack once again for 48,000. And he's got to let it through. And that crit does not save him, so we got him with that one. And Florence gains 10k after the game is over. But there you go, that was version 2 of my Lianorn deck. Very nice upgrade for this deck. I've always been a big fan of this deck, and I think it's even more fun to play now. So anyway, I will be back soon with more deck profiles. Next up, I'll be doing a different variant of Lianorn, actually, with Lianorn masks. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.